Joshua chapter 2, verse 1 says, "And Joshua the son of Nun sent 2 men secretly from Shittim as spies, saying, 'Go view the land, especially Jericho.'" This is what we're focusing on, Jericho. This is going to be the first city that they go into. "Go view the land, especially Jericho." And these men went, and they came into the house of a prostitute whose name was Rahab, and lodged there. Now again, this is coming off of chapter 1. God came to Joshua, gave him the command, stand up, lead my people into the promised land to receive their inheritance. Joshua then takes God's word to the people. He speaks to the people, and then they respond, and they respond in faith. Yes, we will follow you wherever you lead us. We will do whatever you tell us. And so Joshua chapter 2 now, verse 1, says this, "And Joshua the son of Nun," again, this is the general. Joshua is the man that God has raised up for this position. He's going to lead Israel across the Jordan River. And so Joshua, the leader of Israel, the son of Nun, he sent 2 men secretly. 2 men secretly. So Moses, back in the book of Numbers, 40 years before this event, 40 years prior, Moses sent 12 men, and it was all a public ordeal. I mean, he sent 12 men, go spy out the land, search out the land, come back, bring us a report on all that you see, all that you witness, all that you take part in. And now, Joshua, though, 40 years later, he sends 2 men, likely going back to the fact that out of these 12 men, only 10 of them actually came back with a good report. Or only two of them came back with a good report. 10 of these 12 men came back with an evil report. 10 of the 12 came back, stirred up the people, said, God's not going to be faithful. God is not going to deliver us. He's not going to go before us. And so then the people of Israel as a whole, the entire nation, missed out because of those 10 men stirring up fear in the eyes of the people. Whereas the 2 men, Joshua, right here, Joshua, who we're talking about, and his friend Caleb, these were the 2 men in the book of Numbers who originally went out. They were the ones who were faithful to God. And so God allowed them, Joshua and Caleb, to be the only men who would enter the promised land. And so now Joshua, as the leader of Israel after Moses, Joshua sent 2 of these men, and he did this secretly. Sent 2 men secretly, not publicly. The congregation doesn't need to know. He just sent them out, likely going back to Joshua chapter 1, verses like 10, 11, 12, 13, somewhere in that area, where after God had come to Joshua, given him his word, Joshua then goes to the people and says, prepare your provisions, get ready, because in 3 days we're going to cross over the Jordan. Well, likely about the same time as Joshua 1:10, Joshua sent these 2 men to go out secretly from Shittim and as spies. You're going to be scouts. You're going to go view the land. This is your job. This is your responsibility, your role. View the land. Come back with a report, but honestly, I don't care about your opinion. I don't care about your bias. I don't care about what you think we can and cannot do. Just go view the land, especially Jericho. And basically, they're just going to come back with, hey, the land looks good. So that's what Joshua is telling them to do, especially Jericho. Give us a report on Jericho, because we are crossing this Jordan in 3 days' time, and we are taking Jericho. Jericho is our first conquest. And so especially Jericho. This is where the spies were going, Jericho. And these men went and they came into the house of a prostitute whose name was Rahab, and lodged there. Now, men, women, scholars, commentators, pastors, teachers, Bible people all over the centuries, they have big theological questions on God's sovereignty, election, end times, who can and cannot serve in elder and deacon roles, and so on and so forth. So, they have these big theological questions, even about the days in Genesis, creation, how old is the earth, different things like that, when Jesus is coming back, all of those things. My question, though, is what on earth were these two men right here, take note, these two, why were they in the house of a prostitute? That is my question for these two men. Someday in heaven, I'm going to ask them, why on earth were they there? Now, I'm glad that Rahab is a saved woman. I'm glad that she's in heaven too. I can't wait to meet her someday. But why were they there? Now, it is more than likely, again, they lodged at Rahab's house, so it's more than likely that Rahab, the prostitute, also maybe was an innkeeper. Maybe her family had an inn. I mean, you don't just go to someone's house if you're a stranger into a land and you just stay the night. You know, maybe that happened, maybe that didn't, but it's likely that, you know, they housed visitors for payment, obviously. So kind of like an innkeeper, a hotel, motel type of thing, bed and breakfast kind of thing. And so Rahab then, if this is true, she's an innkeeper and these men were lodging there. So that could be, in theory, an okay response as to why these two men were with the prostitute. But no matter what, this brings up questions in my mind as to why exactly they were there. Anyway, I'm glad Rahab's saved. I'm glad that these two men ended up staying in this woman's house at this time because of all that comes next throughout this chapter and chapters to come. And so they lodged here for this specific time. And this is Joshua chapter 2, verse 1. It leads us into the rest of this chapter. And so Joshua 2:1 says, And Joshua the son of Nun sent two men secretly from Shittim as spies, saying, Go view the land, especially Jericho. And they went and came into the house of a prostitute whose name was Rahab and lodged there. This is Joshua 2, verse 1.